we're here with Ashley, right?
Yes, Ashley Logsdon.
Ashley Logsdon at San Diego at the end of day one of social media marketing conference. And she, well, actually, I reached out and she responded. Thank you for that. And she would be telling us a little bit about traveling and RVing and working as a social media marketer on the road, and a whole bunch of other interesting things. So I'll let her do the introduction.
Watch my money grow, watch my money grow watch my money grow like a proud parent. Yeah, my money getting old and it's colder than the snow bunny.
So you're on.
All right. So I am Ashley Logsdon, and I am a marriage and family coach. And to even go broader than that, I'm more of a relationships coach in general. So what I love to do is I love to take families from kind of that chaos and reaction mode to living a life of intention and not waiting for one day, and really understanding how each other ticks so that you create a relationship where everyone thrives and you actually create that life that you love to come home to. So I do that on the personal side with my company, Mama Says Namaste. And I do it on the professional side with my father's company, 48 Days. And we work with a lot of entrepreneurs and help them to not only create the work that they love, but the life that they love. And the part that I head up with him is helping with a coaching mastery program. So we do coaching certification and also lead a thriving membership community for entrepreneurs, covering not just the business side, but also how to have that life harmony process, because life is about so much more than just the work that you do.
Okay, so that's a great introduction. So what would be the ideal client? Like, who comes to you reaching out? Like, are you helping people, or are you helping people become coaches as well?
We do both.
Both, okay.
So both in my father's business, my main area of focus is with coaches. However, I help with a lot of different entrepreneurs, helping them in understanding personality styles, how they can use that, whether it's in the team management and leadership or the sales process, or then going into the personal side as well.
Okay, so who would be the ideal person that comes to you? Like, who's your customer? They come to you, and you take them on as a customer, and you build a relationship. It's a long-term relationship, right?
Very long-term.
So you follow with them for how long? Like, how long would that be?
Well, my dad's audience, oftentimes there are people that have been following him for a decade. And,
really?
We
they are
really
engaged?
create the relationships. Yeah, actually here at Social Media Marketing World, I was late for our last talk because it was like family reunion in front of the speaking things, where there were about 15 of the 48 Days Eagles that are all part of this membership group that all just were running into one another. So 48 Days is pretty broad because it's really anybody looking for the life that they love. My specialty, and where I kind of niche down to my ideal client, is typically in their early 30s to 40s, and they have a growing family, so young children at home, and they're kind of tired of keeping up with the Joneses and looking for life beyond the picket fence, and not wanting to just wait for one day, but trying to figure out how they can actually enjoy life now instead of, a few generations back, where it's just kind of keep your nose to the grindstone, and eventually you can actually, sit back and relax.
Just do it before you die, right?
Right.
So what do you tell them? Like, what is the advice? What are the main advices that you give people like that? Like, how do you manage that? Like, you tell them, okay, you do this, and that, or you just draw them some kind of a map, put it in front of them, and just have them follow up with you. Like, what will be the process?
Well, there's a difference between counseling versus coaching versus consulting. And so as a consultant, I would give them that map, and I would just say, this is how you do it. This is your framework. As a counselor, I'm going to say, talk about your childhood. Let me know where you came from. What do we need to process through? As a coach, what I'm saying is, okay, it will always remain one day until you put a date on it. So let's look at, what are your one-day dreams? What are those goals and those things that you want in your business, in your personal life, in your physical life, all of these different aspects of your life. Okay, now that we have a goal, let's start right now. We're only going to reference the past in relation to where we are right now, and we're going to work for what little actionable steps you can do to get to that end goal. So coaching tends to be, as opposed to counseling, which may be an ongoing process, coaching a lot of times you have a goal and you can go kind of fast-paced. So we'll do a fast-paced approach, and then it's more of a follow-up and check-in and giving some of that accountability, but it's not something that ends up being, it's not a 5-year process. Oftentimes coaching can be, one session or a 1-month process, or oftentimes in my dad's case, a 48-day process.
So, okay, so that's why the company is called 48 Days.
Yes, so it was kind of a play on words. When it started, it was right when 48 hours was big, and the point is not so much that 48 days is the magic number, but that it is a number, and it's quantifiable, as opposed to just saying one day. You actually have a date and a
put
deadline.
Put an actual deadline kind of thing to it. Okay, I get it. So that's on the psychological. So what's your background? Like how do you get to, because I mean, when you say you're advising people and you coaching them through like life and how to manage all that business, personal stuff, like what would be the background? I'm thinking like any psychiatry, psychology, or?
I do have a degree in psychology.
Yeah, see?
Yes, I also have a degree in sign language interpreting, which ironically, of course, in this process I learned I don't want to actually interpret, yet the tools that I learned in getting my interpreting
degree. So we could have done this whole thing with sign language too.
Exactly, yes. But what I learned in my interpreting degree is I love to mediate between people and interpret relationships, and that's what I do with the personality styles. Is I really help people to decipher where they're coming from, because sometimes you don't click with somebody and you can take it personally and then recognize, wait, this doesn't have to do with them being a horrible person, but you love to talk all day and I need some alone time. It's not a rejection, but this is part of who I am. So helping people to kind of understand each other. My tagline is, the uniqueness in each of us strengthens all of us. And when we start to understand those things as different and as a strength that that I have that you don't, or that you have that I don't, then we're able to have a better connection where we are able to complete instead of compete, and we also are able to have grace for where others are.
Complete instead of compete. I like that. Yeah. Interesting though. It's really. And you said you're based off of. Did you say Kentucky?
Nashville, Tennessee.
I don't know why I think Kentucky.
Yes.
By the way.
I actually was born in Kentucky, ironically.
Really?
Yes, I was.
Wow. Okay. See. I
Yes.
feel like a psychic now.
There
The
you
psychology.
go. Exactly.
All right. So you're Nashville, and your clients are, I'm guessing, from everywhere, because you do those
over.
things online, right? You do the coaching, like
Yes.
videos and Zooms and things like that.
Yes, yeah, we love Zoom, and both my father and I do all of our coaching on Zoom. And so my clients can be from all over the world, and I'm talking with somebody right now that's in Australia, and there's some in the UK, and then a lot in the States. And because of our unique lifestyle of traveling everywhere, I can do things virtually, but I also have the opportunity to travel and meet some of my clients face to face as well.
Would it be different for someone from Australia and someone from UK versus someone from the States, or like any other country? Like would you have a different approach, or the basics are like the fundamentals are still the same? You would do the same thing for everybody.
Fundamentals are the same. Logistics will be different, and especially when it comes to the business side. So obviously setting yourself up and dealing with taxes and licensure and all of those things for setting up a business in the UK or Australia may be different from the States. But like when it comes to family and intentionality in your family, and really thinking about the fact that we spend all of our time creating these vision statements and mission statements for our businesses, yet we don't think to do the same thing for our homes. And so we just react to what happens. And especially when you have young children in the home, you can just be in constant reaction mode, just putting out fires. And then you have these families that are super overwhelmed and stressed. That's universal. That's something that I can coach. Regardless of where you are, I can still, in respect to different cultures, I can still give those tips to help to be proactive in how you're relating to your family, and to help to morph it into what it is that you want.
Okay, so when it comes to social media, because we're a social media marketing conference, let's talk a little bit about that. Like, what do you do on social media? How do you approach the business side, or just in general? Like, what are you getting out of this? you told me it's your fourth time here, right? So
Yeah.
you've been to this conference 4 times. It's my second time, so you beat me with 2. But like, what are you getting out of? What's the importance of it for you?
You know, the importance for social media is simply a jump start to the face-to-face relationships. I believe that it's still the one-on-one relationships and the engagement is what is so critical. And so with social media, I mean, I share insights into my life, and I share kind of the backstory. I also ask those questions that prompt conversation, and I'll use things like Instagram or Facebook Live or my Facebook groups and have conversations going. But really, all of those are simply the catalyst to get to that personal one-on-one connection again. And that's something where oftentimes we can get sucked in to the social media, the busyness and all the busyness that goes on, and maybe the drama that goes on. And the most important thing to me is my family, is what's right there with me, and fostering those deeper connections.
So what's the main, what's your favorite social media that you use? Is there 1 or 2 that you use the most? Nowadays.
Well, Facebook and Instagram are definitely my biggest. Pinterest is a little bit more on the business side. I'm a little newer to trying to get the Pinterest part down. But, you know, I started Instagram actually as a way to connect to my family who was across the country, in another country. And so this was a way for us to all stay connected. And then as I started to do that and share about our travels, RVing the States full time, then other people started to get excited about that. And then they would reach out and say, you know, how did you do this? And what I've found is oftentimes with coaching and with community, some of the biggest aspects are affirmation and validation and accountability. And social media has allowed me to affirm, validate, and keep more people accountable, so that then hopefully it inspires them to step up and be present in their own lives and be aware. So I balance it, because obviously you don't want to get sucked in either.
I mean, it sounds like you're also living as an example of what you're teaching. Like, you want to do RVing across the state? Sure, why not? Let's go and do it. So you're doing RV, but working at the same time.
Right.
And that's a lot of things that people are like, oh, I want to be doing this and this, but they keep sitting in one spot and only dreaming about it because one way or another they're tied up somehow, whether their business or, you know, stuff gets in the way. But you looks like you actually living this. So what's the strategies? Like, how do you get your clients using social media? Again, going back to the social media aspect, since we on this conference here, like what strategies do you use as a coach? Is there like a favorite strategy? Is there a best strategy that you would go for on social media to get your business promotions, to get customers for yourself, to get awareness, or maybe your personal brand and all that?
A lot of it for me has just been sharing a little bit of the inside view. And that's where I've used it a lot, is kind of sharing the ups and downs and what my outlook is on it. Because, the first step in marketing is, we use a process, the sales process, 40, 30, 20, 10, and 40% is gaining trust and rapport. And then 30% is identifying the need. 40, 30, 20, 10. So 40% is gaining trust and rapport. And I use social media for that. I cannot sit down and have a conversation with every single person in my audience. Right. But I can if I post it on Instagram or Facebook and I share a little bit about it. And I go kind of back and forth from asking questions of them and sharing insights into who I am. And doing that kind of helps to build that relationship. So that's the 40%. And then 30% is identifying the need. And I flat out ask them. That's what I use it for, is what's your biggest struggle right now? What's holding you back from taking that trip or unschooling your kid or doing those things you want?
Would you personally reply to everyone that puts a comment, or you just take that into consideration for the follow-up contents that you will be developing down the road?
Depends on what it is, but most of the time I love the engagement and I personally respond. I'll respond to every email and I'll respond to every comment. And I do that. And I utilize, so if I'm looking at building the team, I utilize the team to stock the initial things, so that then my time and energy in social media is not scheduling Insta posts, but my time in social media is responding to those personal statements and going through and taking an effort that every time I'm responding or I'm putting something out there, that I'm also making an effort to go out and comment on somebody else's post or do something to help somebody else as well.
So you do that yourself, or you have someone that's helping you out with this?
Those parts, as far as commenting and responding, that's me. And
Okay.
then queuing everything up.
Okay. You just get overwhelming at some point, like
It can.
all the comments and all the like threads and different messages. Like what tools do you like, if
Taking
any?
a deep breath.
Yeah. Just
Pacing
go out of
myself.
the RV and
Yeah.
enjoy the forest.
Well, recognizing that, I mean, social media for me is very much about accountability, because I have to practice what I preach. And if I'm going to say it out there, and if I'm going to come up as a marriage and family coach or talking about living an intentional life, I have to show that I'm doing that in my own life.
Okay.
So I give them those glimpses into my life, which means I have to put the phone down, walk away, and say, this is my scheduled time. I've got this hour where I answer all social media. I've got this hour where I do my email. And I break it down so that it's kind of time blocked, so I'm not constantly glued to my phone.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, with the 40, 30, 20, 10, right? They get it right. You're getting the know, like, and trust factor that everybody's
Right.
talking about in social media. So you get, people buy or engage with people that they know, like, and trust, or brands for that matter.
Right.
But your personal brand, your own brand. So,
Right.
And you're selling courses, and you're also selling subscription to the coaching program, right? Which
So
is the
we've got-
longer term engagement. I'm guessing it's like a monthly or whatever it is, your commitment, the model there. So people need to know you before they commit to something like that.
Right.
So you're using social media for this.
And we both have podcasts. Podcasting is really large.
Yeah.
Actually, my whole family, we have, out of the 5 people in our family, 4 have podcasts.
Okay.
So podcasting is a big thing, and I mean, for my dad, who obviously he's been doing this for a really long time, he will have somebody that will come and book a coaching session with him that's a substantial amount of money that he's never heard of. But then he says, how did you find out about it? Well, I've listened to your podcast for years, and I know, I feel like I know you. And we get that so often when we're sharing those ways of building that trust and rapport. Then when they're ready to book, they're committed because they do know you, even if you don't know who they are.
For something that you mentioned that I thought of a question. You said someone comes in that he's never met and he doesn't know. Like, how much of a research goes into a client? I'm going to call it a client, but in my case, agency, businesses come, I want this done, and I'm taking some time and I'm doing some research, going into their social, just looking at where they are, what they're doing,
Definitely.
what's happening. So how much of that goes into someone, in the case with like your father, when you say someone comes in then he never knows about it, so how does that done? Like, for agencies it will be easy because businesses are online, I can find them.
Right.
But a person comes in, like, what do I do? Do they just go on the phone and be like for an hour or so, just talk about stuff and getting to know each other? Like, there's a questionnaire of some sort.
Questionnaire.
Yeah?
Yeah, so we have a client intake form. So basically you have as far as the coaching is concerned. Now obviously if they're buying our courses or our products or even joining the community, that's something that they can just go ahead and do, and there's no screening process for it. But for working one-on-one, it's a mutual thing. It's not just, do I like you, but do you like me? Like, does this work, and do we have a relationship that we really feel like we can work together on this?
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to click. So they do fill out a survey, and the form gives us insights as to what they're struggling with. And some of them are just very telling. Like, if you were given $7 million, what would you do with it? And how do they respond to that? Or if you are, what do you want it to say on your tombstone? Like, those sorts of things that really kind of start that process of introspection, which is so important because we believe, 85% of the process of finding the work you love is by looking inward first.
And that's enough for you to get all the information that you need for someone to at least get the ball rolling. And
We
and
do
once,
that,
once
yeah.
you get together and get into talking, then they get to reveal more, I guess.
And
Yeah,
that's
okay.
when I get the personality profile aspect of it.
Okay.
Not because the profile is an end-all be-all or that there's a right or wrong, but all it does is having them take a personality assessment just opens the door to self-awareness. So then when I'm coaching them, I can say, does this resonate with you? Why or why not? And that opens the door to deeper conversation. So it kind of jump starts our coaching to really dig into the meat and not have all that surface talk as well.
Okay. So, what would going back to the social media aspect, the marketing aspect of social media, what would be a typical campaign for you when you do promotion, like when you promote your business? Like, what would a campaign look for you? Is it a lead gen? Is it a traffic campaign? Is it like what would it look like? Just for people that are curious out there that may be listening or watching this eventually someday, and they'd be like, okay, I want to coach, or I want to be a coach, or I want to find, like, what would be a structure of a campaign? You don't have to go into like the nitty gritty, but what would be?
We believe a lot that it is important, again, with that trust and rapport, to give, ask. You know, Gary Vaynerchuk talks about, you know, his little philosophy on it as well. But we want to make sure we're giving as much. I know.
There's music behind us. There's party about to start in maybe like what, half an hour or so?
Something like that.
So they're getting prepped over there. So
it's a big party here, all these socialites.
All those interviews are gonna have some kind of background noise of doors flapping and people walking, but that's fine.
Yeah.
That's the reality of the situation. We're not gonna cover it up. So sorry to cut you off. So
that's fine.
The social stuff.
So we believe in really giving a lot of free information and content as a way to show that, I mean, we're doing this because we're passionate about it, not just because we want your money, that sort of thing. We also believe in having a sustainable model. So because we're so passionate about it, if we only give, we're only going to be able to give so much till our cup runs dry. So we recognize that there is an exchange of energy, and they have to, the power of investing makes them take it seriously as well. So oftentimes we do, like, opt-ins are a big one for us. We give them a free resource, free PDF download, free link to an MP3 or you know, or an audio thing, or, you know, we'll give them something for free in exchange for that email
something
address.
Of value, though.
Something of value.
It's not just something that, because you see a lot of those floating around that are pretty much, they sound great, but once you download, it's like, oh, what is this? Like, why did I waste my email on this thing?
Right. We give serious content. We give serious free information. This is a how-to. This is, you know, your step-by-step. Here are your resources and your links. We give those things, and then oftentimes we have it with an email funnel. So after that, then we've got email funnels, and that's been really helpful for us because it also gives us an opportunity to kind of have a little bit more of a long-term relationship, not just one thing. And we do not inundate with emails, but we have, you know, every week, let's process through a little bit. Here's one more step, one more nugget of information to give you a little bit more. And each time we do, you know, there's a little bit of that give, and then the ask, and inviting them to join the community, or inviting them to, hey, at this point, you know, you stuck with me. If you're still feeling stuck, maybe now is an opportunity to work one-on-one with a coach. So we set it up again with that kind of that long tail of having a little bit more of a long-term relationship, and not just spamming with tons of content or the scarcity. You have to do it now. But
so you're providing a lead magnet ads. You would be running to cold traffic, right? Mm-hmm. And you would giving something away, say like a checklist or questionnaire or something that relates to what you do.
And honestly, we don't run very much to cold traffic. We feed our warm audience as much as possible, and they become our marketers.
How do you get that warm audience?
That has been, you know, through the podcast and the newsletter that have been consistent from day one, and having those things going on long term. One person tells somebody else, hey, you got to listen to this. A friend who maybe has a large audience says, hey, you need to hop over and listen to Ashley or Dan.
How do you get the people that listen to the podcast? Is there a way for you to get audiences from listeners? So how do you do that?
The biggest thing, I mean, just telling people, if you like what you hear, share it with a friend. Both of us answer questions on our podcast, and so if we answer a question and you get an email that says, hey, your question was answered, you're more likely to share that with all of your friends and say, hey, he talked about me on there. So that's a way of also being able to spread the word.
So you're taking questions in forms of email from people.
Yeah.
and then you answer those questions in the podcast. And okay, so it's kind of like an inbound type of. All right, yeah.
But really,
I see.
the bottom line of getting started is start with those people that you know. Start with your friends and your family. Spread the word that way, and have them. Those people that already know, like, and trust you are the ones that then spread the word. That's how Facebook got big. It was all the friends of friends of friends.
Do you ever do any like custom audiences based on video views? Like you run a video and maybe promote it a little bit, then see who watches it more, based on length and all that magic that Facebook does with video views. You ever do that?
I've not done it with the video views. Our marketing director has definitely done some A/B split testing and things like that with newsletters and things that have gone out. We've not played with it so much on the video side.
I think that might be. You do a lot of lives, like video live streams or anything like that?
I did, and I have pulled back on it.
Yeah.
It was one of those, again, where social media, there's so many opportunities to share.
Yeah, you can get
spread too thin.
Yeah.
And so I've pulled back because for us, we had a lot of outreach, and at this point, we're really focused on the people that are engaged, that already are part of our community, and those people we pour so much into, those are the ones that are bringing others in. So we're more likely to do, like we do a Monday mentor call every week. We are on bringing either speakers in or an open Q&A, or just Dad and I talking about different topics, and we're pouring into that membership community.
Okay. Do you look at what's called lookalike audiences on Facebook from the people you already have? Lookalike audience, and then spread it out. Of course, it's not. Well, Facebook matches it pretty well if you go onto the 1% match. So let's say you have 100,000 audience of some sort within Facebook that you're promoting or doing stuff with. Then take that, make a lookalike of 1%, which is pretty close match on all the parameters that Facebook is looking for them. Is that something that you've done?
Yes,
Yeah?
we've done.
How did that work?
Well, it was, I'm trying to think of the latest ones that we've done. We had one that didn't work very well, one that did. I feel like it's kind of been hit or miss. We have not done it. We've not, again, looking at where we have seen the most of ours come from, has been very much about the relationships of referrals.
So
over
basically,
anything.
you're doing mainly from the referrals and people listening on the podcast. Yeah. Well, again, that's also a good way for people to know you through the podcast.
Right.
So they have the know factor, and then.
Social media, the whole point of it is sharing, sharing those things. And so when we ask people to share, they share. And they do share about what the impact was, or what they're excited about, or what their biggest takeaway was, or their action step for accountability. And all of those, that's our marketing strategy, is simply saying, hey, if you're excited about this, they're going to be the ones that are going to share and be the most authentic about it. And authenticity and integrity are very huge for both of us.
Are you going to after any specific niche, like any specific types of people that you would work with, or basically anyone that comes in with that type of need you would take on after questionnaires and all that?
For the most part, it's entrepreneurs. Now, I have coaches that I do have, like, people say, I need a job, I need help with my resume. And I have coaches that I refer them out to. So we have a coaching referral process. So coaches, if you're looking for guidance in pretty much anything, I've got a coach I can connect you with.
Okay.
Dad and I specialize with the entrepreneurial families. He specializes with those kind of retirement and beyond, where they recognize, okay, now that I'm retired, now what? Like,
Okay.
where's my purpose? And I specialize with those growing families where they say, I don't want to wait till I'm retired to enjoy life. I want to do it now, but I've got 3 crazy kids pulling at me. How do I do it?
All right. So talk a little bit about that RV life that you're living. I mean, that sounds like an exciting thing. I mean, I'd love to do it one day. Maybe I've never been in an RV, as a matter of fact. I just never had a chance to be in an RV. I mean, I've been camping and all that, but never an RV. So how did that, like, you just woke up one day and say, you know what, let's go RVing around the States? Is that?
Well, it kind of started by, I read a book, Danielle Laporte, Firestarter Sessions.
Okay.
And she started in the book, I was reading it on a vacation with my husband, and she talked about creating goals, and then she talked about those feelings behind the goals. And when we started to look at what we wanted to do one day, go travel. then what were those feelings and those things that we wanted? We started to pull back and see, what does that really mean for us, and why is this so important? And the more we looked at it, the more we're like, we need to do this now. We want to have these feelings now. We're feeling burned out and stressed out in life. And so when we came back from our trip, I booked us for a month in Costa Rica.
Okay.
And so we took off. We surprised our kids, didn't even tell them till the day we left. And we went and spent a month in Costa Rica, and we fell in love with it. And we loved the idea of traveling. We Airbnb hopped, we had a blast, and we started looking at, okay, how can we do this more often? And we have a dog, and she's very much a part of our family. And so when we started thinking international travel, it got complicated.
Yeah.
And I stumbled upon, by listening to a podcast, I stumbled upon this whole RVing community. And I went onto Facebook, again, going back to social media, I went onto Facebook then, and I became a part of this free community with 28,000 members that were families all wanting to RV. And then I ended up coming into this smaller niche community in there of full-time traveling families. And that kind of just started it. I saw that there were other people that were out there doing it. It gave me that validation that I'm not crazy.
You're not
There's
alone.
other people.
Yeah.
And so we started making plans. And 9 months after we came, I guess it was exactly a year. Exactly a year after we came back from Costa Rica, we hit the road full time. And that was in
So within a year from
2016.
that vacation that you were reading that book, within a year you were in an RV somewhere in a mountain, or I don't know.
2014, I read the book. 2015, we went to Costa Rica. 2016, we hit the road full time.
Cool. And you're still doing it up to this day?
Yes.
Where did you
So
park the RV around here?
I flew from here. I left the family in Nashville, so they're there with the RV right now. And I flew because last year, lesson learned was me, or 2 years ago, I had to be in Nashville in January, Miami in February, and San Diego in March, and we hauled that RV all the way across there. So
But still staying true to the adventurous lifestyle, you're staying on a boat.
I
which
am.
you
I'm
just
staying
told me
on
in
a
San
yeah.
Diego.
Still has to be a little bit out
You
the box.
right.
For sure.
So it still has to be something out
Right.
there related.
Right.
So you chose to stay in a boat, which I might consider next time. I haven't even thought of it.
Oh yeah,
But
it's wonderful.
yeah, I would definitely consider that next time. Apparently, there is a community of boats or houses or whatever, yacht.
Uh-huh.
Actually, not a boat, a yacht.
A
you
yacht.
said.
I was
A
corrected.
yacht,
Yes.
Yeah.
And I did actually get to tour another yacht that had a hot tub on the 3rd floor of this yacht.
Well,
Oh, it was amazing.
excuse me.
I know.
3rd floor of my yacht.
So super fancy. But it was really amazing even flying across the country this time and looking down, and right before we hit 2 years on the road, we saw all 48 of the lower 48 states. And so flying over and being able to look down on the terrain and say, I've been there. I know what the desert feels like there. I
Yeah.
know what the super bloom in California feels like. And I've
great,
been
yeah.
to all of these different places. And our world is so vast, and there's so many
Yeah.
amazing things to see.
That's true. That's true.
And a lot of times we fear what is unknown, whether that is a what if that could happen, or that person we don't fully understand. And when you take that opportunity to make it personal, get to know them, get out and educate yourself, it doesn't become so scary anymore. So that's been an amazing thing that we've done and taught our children.
Hardest part would be to take the first step, right?
Exactly.
Like there's this saying, I don't know, Johnny Walker had an ad with that, the longest journey starts with the first step.
Right.
Okay, so there's one thing I ask everyone that agrees on this is, what would you give as piece of advice to someone in terms of either like related to what you do, and then a piece of advice to people that would like to do what you do? Like what
Gotcha. For people that I'm speaking to, a big one is just that, it'll always remain one day. But taking ownership of the fact that you are your own boss. You get to make a decision on how you're going to face the day, whether that is just what your perspective is, or whether it's really taking an intentional step to get out of what you're miserable in and being proactive. And it doesn't just mean you run from the negative, but you look at where you can go from here. I firmly believe that we are lifelong learners, and if we embrace that growth mindset and look at what does this make possible, what opportunities do I have, how can I grow from this and move toward where I want to go, and be intentional, because you only get this life once, and there are no rollover minutes. what you get is what you get.
True that.
So, yeah.
What would be like if someone wants to start and change, like the one thing that they need to do right away, like action that they need to take, like right now? What is it?
The action they need to take right now is, first off, speak it. I mean, speak your intention. Get out there and voice what it is you want to do. And if you're overwhelmed, sometimes the best thing to do is like dump it out, write it out, get it out of your head and out somewhere else, and then pick one thing and choose one thing that you can do today that gives you a little win, a little step or a little nudge in that direction that you want to go. Because like you said, it all begins with that first step.
Okay, and now for people that want to be coaches, like for people that are looking to get into coaching and being like providing programs and services like you, like what would be, like how would they be approached, like advice for them?
One of the first things is just asking, just look, kind of taking a step back and saying, are there people already coming to you for coaching? Are there people already asking you advice, asking you for questions? If you're already in that role, then it becomes an easy transition. To step up and say, I'm a coach, and nobody's come and asked you for any advice in whatever your area of expertise is, that's a pretty hard move. It's those people that are already being in those leadership roles. So then all you're doing is you're putting a name on what it is that you're doing. And with the way that the way that coaching is right now, it's kind of, we say the good news is everybody can be a coach, and the bad news is everybody can be a coach. I mean, there are definitely great resources that are out there that can help you to become an effective coach and to do it well and to do it where you have a sustainable business. But really the first step is simply being willing to share your input and challenge people and give people an opportunity to be heard.
And use social media wisely, I guess.
And use social media wisely, for sure.
To your advantage, not just browse endlessly and look at posts.
It all goes back to intention.
Yeah, right. Okay, that sounds good. So what's the way for people to find you, like get to you, or is there a preferred method?
Boy, there's so many methods.
Like what's the way that people can get to you? I mean, I'll get the information and I'll also write it out, but.
Yes, so if you want to follow my travels, it's at Field Trip Gypsies.
Field Trip Gypsies.
Field Trip
Instagram.
Gypsies on Instagram. And if you want to find out more about intentional living with your life, then it's Mama Says Namaste. And Mama Says Namaste is whether you're on Instagram, Facebook, or just the website and reaching out. And like I said, I respond to everything personally.
There you go. So there you have it.